What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls PvP. Alright guys, we're back at it again with a little more dual wielding footage. Right, and actually this will be another treat from good old EIiitti. Now, like I've said in the past, for a lot of you guys on Xbox, you guys can attest to EIiitti's skill. He is definitely one of those guys that are up there with regard to skill, right? Especially with regard to his dual wielding capabilities. Now, I know some of you guys may say, okay, now why was that guy just standing there after he successfully parried you? Well, now here's one thing that I have witnessed myself. Right now, there's a video out there, and it is on Sans' channel, right? And I think the video is titled, it's something like Post 1.06 Hornet Ring or something like that. I can't really remember the name of the title off the top of my head. But in it, there's a situation where this guy parries, menu switches, to a Hornet Ring, and he riposts. So in other words, from the time that he parries to the time that he, exercises the riposte, he had enough time to go into the menu, change out his rings, come back, and still have time for the successful parry. And actually, he did it to me before, so I think that was the main reason why he missed it there, because he definitely landed the parry. Right? And I mean, anyone who can kind of do it that fast, you definitely have some skill. Right? You definitely have some skill, because I mean, as a matter of fact, I don't think I even menu switch. And that's one of those things that a lot of those, super experienced guys do. Number one, I don't even have time to do it. Number two, I have a hard enough time just trying to deal with, concentrate on the fight, let alone going into menus and switching, while at the same time being able to avoid my opponent. I'm not even on that level. Right, there's plenty of guys who can do it, but, I still have a lot of things to learn. Alright, so he went on ahead and poisoned me real well with that Guardian Tail. I'm pretty sure you guys know that the Guardian Tail already inflicts poison, but, once you supplement it with the rotten resin, I mean, you can basically be inflicted after like 1 or 2 shots from the Guardian Tail itself. So I think that's a pretty good tactic. And actually, I didn't have any purple moss right here, so that's why I'm just trying to fight through it. But, luckily you only lose 3 vitality or 3 health points per second. So, I mean, that's not really bad. Unless this match is, kind of lasts for the long haul. That's probably one of the only occasions where, it will kind of be bad news for me. Alright, so he's got the red tear stone fired up, so I'm basically in trouble. Because even though his vitality is low, mine is also low. And with the red tear stone, I mean, that just basically adds an added buff to any attack strength that his weapon may already have. I'm pretty sure you guys know that already. Alright, so I was able to land a roll BS. And like I said before, in another video, you might see some roll BS's, right? Either from myself or from my opponent. But one thing I like about fighting these guys, they do not use roll BS as a primary means of engagement. I cannot stress that enough. Right? I definitely cannot stress that, because there are a lot of people who use roll BS, and it looks cool, it's effective, but there's other tactics as well. But there's a lot of there's a lot of players out there that they just kind of stick with it, and that's all they do, and it's really not exciting to fight. Right? So you guys will notice when you see me fighting. Now, we're not talking about when I'm fighting gankers or something like that, or random invasions, because random invasions or gankers, I mean, is no holds barred. I think I've stressed that enough, especially to the extent that you guys are kind of familiar with the channel. Last week we talked a lot about the conflicting values. Right, so like I said before, when it comes to arrangements like this, now I'm not saying I play easy, but do I search for each and every opportunity to BS? Nope. And that's the funny thing about when I listen to guys saying, "Oh, the brigade is nothing but a BS fisher." And I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what? How come I always get accused of being a BS fisher on my forest hunting videos, but no one ever has anything to say when I'm doing 1v1 matches? Because in other words, if I was a BS fisher, then that means that I would always BS fish. But it's pretty interesting to me that these guys always have something to say when I'm in the forest, but they have no words about my tactics when I'm fighting a 1v1 match. Because, like we talked about last week, I'm not a BS fisher, but random invasions are different than 1v1 situations. Alright, but I won't go ahead and continue to talk about that because that's a dead issue. And, we won't be talking about anything like that anymore. I think I've talked about that so many times that we're good to go on that. Alright, so that was a good little combination, tightening me up right there with the show tail. And some people say shotel, I say show tail. I don't really know. Right? So all you word police out there, I mean, if I'm saying it wrong, okay, I'm saying it wrong. Whatever, no big deal. Right, because as a matter of fact, I have a video out there. I can't really remember the title, but I swear it's like 3 pages of comments where guys are telling me the correct way to say Zweihander, right? I mean, everybody's got an opinion. The police are everywhere around here. You'll have someone who will say, "Oh, well, I took 1 year of German, therefore I know." Or you get somebody else who will say, "Well, I read a language book, and I mean, this is what the language book says." It's like, dude, I mean, is it really that serious? In other words, German is not my native language, right? So if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. I mean, it's one thing if it was my native language, and I can kind of understand. But, dude, I was born speaking English. That's the language that I know, so get over it. If I'm not saying Zweihander correctly, then okay, I'm not saying Zweihander correctly. It is what it is. Right? Because I know there's some police out there who will say, well, actually, it's not shotel, it's shotel. Or if I say shotel, somebody else will say, actually, it's not shotel, it's shotel. And they'll give you some kind of lesson on English language. Whatever, you guys get the gist. And actually, I really don't know why I did that. My intention was to do a jumping R2, but I guess I did not press forward on the controller. Right, so I kind of got tightened up right there with that great sight. But hey, we're back at it once again. And each time I get an opportunity to play against EIiitti is definitely a treat because I learned something, especially with regard to dual wielding. Now, one thing I will say about fighting against EIiitti, and to the extent that you guys are kind of new to the channel and you're hearing me saying EIiitti but you don't really know what I'm talking about, go ahead and check out my Battle of the Build series, and I think it's volume 10, wherein he has he introduces his dragon form. Right? I think I called it the Man-Dragon, EIiitti's Man-Dragon. That's a 2-part series. And when I fought that build, it was 100% OP. Right? It was one of those situations where I was so worried about getting sucked into that dragon roar, that I really didn't have time to concentrate on what I was doing. Right? So, it's good kind of having, and actually I really don't know why I didn't hit him right there, because if you guys notice that wide arc swing of that Black Knight Halberd, it appeared as though it would have hit, but for whatever reason it didn't. But it's kind of one of the things that you got to deal with in Dark Souls. And actually that kind of happens a couple times on a number of occasions. Just like right there. You guys notice that? Right there. But, it's all to the good. It is what it is. But yeah, like I was saying, it kind of feels good to play a different build because, every time I played against that dragon, because actually I think I played it on a number of occasions, every single time I played the dragon, I just did not feel comfortable because that build is 100% OP, right? Because like I said before, number one, I was afraid to get sucked into the dragon roar. Number two, with having the dragon at +3, I mean, you can have a 2-hit combination from the hand axe hitting for like 600 or 700 damage on a hand axe, Right? So, needless to say, I mean, that build was a little too much for me, although I did enjoy playing against it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and switch up environments. Basically, I was just using my strength build wherein we were in the painted world, and now we are in the parish. And, you know, the thing is, I kind of went into a new game. I didn't have the Lord Vessel, so I'm like, look, dude, I mean, I have limitations. You know, so I want to use my next build, but let's kind of go somewhere wherein, you know, I won't have to use the Lord Vessel, right? So we went on ahead and into the parish. And actually, he's putting forth an awesome display with this high-speed club, right? Because in most cases, whenever I see people using the great club, basically it's a noob running around in the forest with power within, Dark Moon Blade, and a Hornet Ring, and all they do is backstab fish, right? But see, you know, as we discussed during this series of matches, you can't do that with regard to the club. The problem is with the club is, you know, yes, the R1s can be awkward, but at the end of the day, what you have to do is basically unlock and try to predict what your enemy is going. And keep in mind, there are counter hits, right? And I'm not saying counter hits in the same degree that you would get with the Leo ring, but what I'm saying is there are counters. Like, in other words, I believe EIiitti said, if he can hit you while you're rolling, that's 800 damage on the great club. Right? So, I mean, to the extent that you guys kind of experiment with unlock playing and predicting, I think the club might be a good option. Now, he is using his dual wielding quality build, because if you guys will notice, he will be mixing in some of everything. I mean, he's got the great club right now. A little later on, you guys are going to see him with the Murakumo and a number of other weapons. You guys notice that? He just kind of, and actually, I don't know how I didn't get that parry right there, but, you know, that timing on that weapon is so off that, I mean, in some cases, I mean, unless you're just really dealing with a noob spammer, it's really not a good idea trying to parry that great club. Now, like I said before, if you're dealing with one of those R1 spamming noobs, you can kind of do it like that. But someone just kind of running after you and, you know, trying to hit you with it to the same degree that good old EIiitti is, you might be in trouble. Like I said before, for the most part, you might be in trouble because he plays unlocked. He likes to do a lot of predicting. So, you know, wherein you may think you're getting a good angle for the parry, he could be dead angling you, right? So, you know, it's not really a good option, especially when you're playing against good experienced players, right? And that's one of the main reasons why my playstyle will change depending upon who I'm playing against. When I'm against noobs, I get a lot more sloppy, right? Because I just take for granted the fact that they are noobs. When I'm playing experienced guys, I play a lot differently because I give credit to the fact that they have experience, right? And speaking of that, I'd like to give a shout out to good old Zolohan. I think I'm kind of pronouncing his name correctly, and if I'm not, my apologies, dude. Now, here's a guy that I definitely took for granted, right? Shout out to Lance for Life. Now, the other day, I was having a series of matches between myself and Lance for Life, and Zolohan just so happened to be there. And I know him from Twitch. He was one of the Twitch bros. And, you know, he would kind of ask me for a series of matches, and I kind of took him for granted. And, you know, that's kind of like not a good thing, you know, because when you kind of take people for granted, that's almost kind of like arrogance. And that's really not a good personality trait. But like I said before, speaking of taking people for granted, you know, he kind of wanted to have matches in the past, and I'm like, okay, dude, but I never really took it seriously. And I don't know why, because I really had nothing to base that off. Alright, but in between a few of our matches between myself and good old Lance for Life, I mean, that guy tied me up a few times. Right now, he didn't beat me up all matches, but he definitely kept me on my toes and gave me a run for my money. Right, so, hey, shout out to good old Zolohan. Listen, dude, one of these days we're going to have a good old series of matches because I think these guys will definitely enjoy it. Now, he did love to roll BS. You know, that was kind of pushing it, but you know, other than that, he did incorporate a lot of good tactics that definitely kept me on my toes. Right, so shout out to good old Solo Han. And I think I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, my bad, dude. Alright, so I just mixed in a little Murakumo action for the win. And we're back at it with the long sword. We're going to see what we can do. And actually, hopefully I can get a chance to have a series against good old Big Tada. I'm friends with him on Xbox, but wow, that was over quick. I'm friends with him on Xbox, but he's not really on that often, so hopefully one of these days I can get a few matches in with good old Big Tada, because for a lot of these guys on Xbox, you guys can attest that Big Tada is definitely up there in the higher tiered players. Right, and we had a few matches before. I mean, I just didn't record it because I was kind of doing something else. But, you know, after having a series with EIiitti and a number of these other guys, I know, especially for a lot of you guys on Xbox, you would like to see a series of matches between him and myself. Hopefully that would be a good showing with regard to footage is concerned. Alright, so I'm going ahead and pulling out my Falcon. If you guys would notice, I'm mixing up the weapons, guys. Right? Like I said before, I am not one of those guys that have, you know, one weapon that I use and I stick with that. Now, granted, I do have weapons that I prefer more than others. Right? But, you know, just like some of these katana pros, you know, you got some of these katana pros that that's all that you will see them with. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But at the same time, you guys see, you know, how diverse your playstyle can be when you mix things up. You know, now, I know a lot of people may know me for the halberd, right? Because I use the halberd a lot. But at the end of the day, I mix in a lot of weapons. And, you know, not only is that good for my overall gameplay, but in some cases, you know, you can kind of throw your opponents off. And I think that's a good thing, right? Because they never really know what to expect. Case in point, if you're dealing with a katana user, I mean, you basically know everything you have to look out for, right? Either they may be a ninja flipper who, you know, they just kind of hit and flip, 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 hit, flip, 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 hit, flip, hit, flip, hit, flip, 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 you know, and running R1. You know, and that's basically, whenever you know you're facing a katana guy, you know, that's all you're going to deal with for like 20 minutes or however long you plan to have matches against said user. But whenever you're fighting against someone who is mixing up the weapons, mixing up the playstyles, right? Locked, unlocked, I mean, strength weapons, dexterity weapons, you never really know what to expect. And that's another thing that I like about EIiitti. If you guys will notice, this guy kind of pulls out some of everything. Right, ultra great swords, you know, Black Knight weapons, you know, sword of the great Lord sword, whatever you call that thing. He kind of pulls out everything. I think the only thing I have yet to see him use is some type of a caster build. Right, and actually, here's one part where he gets me right here. Now, if you guys notice, I try to go around his back to BS him, because after he BS'd me, he was standing a little too close. And for whatever reason, I missed. And that's how he was able to get that second backstab in there. So he basically, I hate the fact that I basically gave him that second backstab. The first one was a pretty good one. But, you know, whenever guys kind of stand too close to me, I always like to, you know, either just run around them, either clockwise or counterclockwise, or I'll just kind of do a roll BS, you know, while they're standing there. Because a lot of these guys have the bad habit of trying to either kick, or they'll just stand there to try to, you know, get you with another BS, or they'll stand behind you trying to hit you with pyro. And in a lot of cases, those guys just end up being victims. But, I mean, unfortunately, I missed, and he was able to take advantage of that backstab opportunity. Alright, so we're back at it with the Murakumo, and that was a nice little hit. He got me with the roll BS, and like I said before, we both know how to roll BS, right? Because he roll BS me, and I think I roll BS him once or twice. But guess what, guys? That is not his primary means of engagement, right? So it's not a big deal. Because I know there's a lot of guys, they kind of leave me messages on the Twitch or on my comments, and they'll say, we know how you feel about roll BS. No, dude, you don't know. I always said it was legitimate. I just hate the guys that's all they do. And actually, I thought I was going to get him right there because if you notice, I kind of unlocked and I was able to hit him. But my R1, my two-handed R1 wasn't strong enough to be able to extinguish all of his vitality. Right, so that was a GG right there. Alright, so let's see what he's going to do this time. So he's back at it with the dual wielding. Now, another thing that I like about fighting and leading. If you notice, he doesn't have a shield. Right, he does not have a shield. But he's always engaging. Right, I don't have to chase EIiitti. He doesn't have to chase me. He is always engaging. Yes, he dodge. Yes, he do whatever he has to do, but at the end of the day, he is always engaging. One thing that I really do not like is having to chase people around. That is really not fun. And, in some cases, and actually, I was able to turn around and get him with that two-handed halberd real quick. I'm telling you, once you guys get to the point of kind of experimenting with your unlocked play, some of these situations wherein, you may get backstabbed or, someone's just kind of beating you down with a katana, some of those tactics can be negated. Right, so I can't encourage you guys enough to go ahead and experiment with your various play styles, right? Because the more you experiment, the more you'll be able to see things that perhaps you weren't be able to take advantage of in the past. Alright, so I got 2 quick hits with my S-Stock right there, and he's just kind of clubbing at me with the great club. And that was alright, I gotta get out this guy's way. See? He's kind of knocking me out with that large club. Or great club, rather. And I think that's a good thing because, like I said before, very rarely do you see anyone really use that great club. Because actually, I even have a great club on my strength build, right? But do I really use it? No. Right? Because I just think it's awkward to use. So I don't even use it myself. And I think, just watching how successful he was during the times that he was using it, kind of make me want to do a little more predicting, right? Experiment with it and predict a little bit, so hopefully I can have a little more success with those unlocked hits and the great club. Alright, so I'm going to pull out a little partisan action. Alright, see, one thing about the brigade, we don't care anything about so-called noob weapons, right? Because I know there's a lot of guys that they'll say, oh, this is a noob weapon or that's a noob weapon. They'll say something like, well, the Black Knight Great Axe is a noob weapon or spears is for noobs. Guess what, guys? I'll use any kind of weapon. Spears, Black Knight Great Axes, halberds, whatever the case may be. Right? Because I like to have the wide variety of attack styles. Alright, so I might be in trouble this time. He's pulling out the halberd. Alright, so it looks like I might just be getting a little taste of my own medicine with regard to the halberd. So let's kind of see what he's going to do with it. And actually, I'm going to kind of mix things up. I won't really go halberd for halberd right now. I'll kind of hit him with a little partisan action. Alright, so I got a quick toggle escape right there, but actually it wasn't fast enough because he was able to get 2 hits. Alright, he was able to get 2 hits with that halberd. And, just from personal experience, I know that 2 hits and something, and actually that should have been a roll BS right there. I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but that definitely should have been a roll BS right there. But, it's all good. Because it seemed to me that, not only did I get behind him, not only did I roll, but it seems to me as if I was right there at his back. But things happen. Can't always account for it or explain, so it is what it is. Just chalk it down as another loss. Alright, so I hope you guys are enjoying this second showcase of EIiitti's abilities. Like I said before, I really like fighting EIiitti because he is one of those top tier guys. Plenty of guys on Xbox know of him, especially those guys who are pretty much involved a lot into PvP. Ouch. And I think the only reason why I was able to get him right there because of the benefits of the Leo ring. Alright guys, well this is the last match. So I hope you guys enjoyed EIiitti's showcase. I hope it'll motivate some of you guys, like I said before, to experiment with these combinations, because I know I've definitely started to see a lot more guys experiment with the dual wielding. Alright, so thanks again EIiitti for the opportunity for the matches. Until next time, Martyrs Brigade.